How is that? Okay. Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, should I say. And welcome to another installment of Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Kara Say. Thank you for tuning in to KUAW Radio. As always, I want you to check in with us across all social media platforms at KUAW. That being Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, as well as KUAW.org. You can also call into the show if you wish at area code 816-599-6893. We are always impacted by the culture, whether one way or another, be that politics, music, entertainment, education, whatever the case may be, but it is a huge part of our lives. And this is where we are going to discuss it. And that is Up Close and Cultural with me, Dr. Kara Say. So first, I would like to start off again by thanking you for being here with me this Sunday afternoon. It is May 1st, and I want to recognize that the month of May, we are coming out of the month of April being the month of Sexual Abuse and Awareness Month, and we covered some pretty heavy topics last month. But this month, I want to focus on, in giving the things that happen in our communities, which is very important that we cover, but it's also important that we cover how we get past those things and how we heal from those things. And that is what I want to talk about and also acknowledge as well, making sure that we have balance and harmony in the things that I cover as well. And being that May is National Foster Care Month, we are going to first acknowledge and talk about what that is. So it is designated by the color blue. So let me say that first, and that's why I'm wearing blue now. I actually just left an event a little while ago after church, kicking off Foster Care Month. But National Foster Care Month is the time where we acknowledge the more than 463,000 American children and youth who are in the foster care system, as well as the family members, the foster parents, the volunteers, the mentors, the child welfare professionals, the social workers, the mental health professionals, as well as the policymakers, who help them find permanent homes and connections. So with that being said, and what I am going to talk about today is how we can help all of those people that I just named, which in turn helps the children who are in the foster care system. And of course, I speak from a cultural perspective and from Black children or African-American children, being that I am, a Black woman and I am a mother of African-American or Black children. And with that being said, before you can give to others or pour into others, you have to be full in yourself. And so in order for that to happen, as I stated before, it is important that you do the work and that you heal yourself so that you can be an asset to those people that you help in the community. So along with it being Foster Care Month, some things that I'm not going to talk about today, but I will talk about on the next episode is also with the Bronze Alert system, is how within the community that you can help children in our community, specifically Black children in our community, in the foster care system, to either keep them from going into the foster care system or to give them an alternative to the foster care system. And we will talk about how that's done and the training that you can receive. We will talk about that during the next episode of Up Close and Culture. So I just want you to keep that in mind for those of you who do have a heart to help children or families that are in the community, because sometimes these children end up in foster care for whatever reason, be it that their parents have mental illness or they simply don't have the means or resources to take care of them outside of abuse issues, or they end up houseless or runaways or on the street. But there are things that you can do outside of being a part of social services where you can exact change and help these children. So we will talk about that in 2 weeks. I won't say next week, but in 2 weeks. So today, I want to talk about, and I'm talking to the ladies today. I am going to have an episode where I'm going to bring some male therapists in, and we are going to talk to the men. But we started this discussion on Clubhouse the other night, and we're going to continue to talk about changing relationship patterns, healing unresolved trauma, and building a healthy relationship with first few and then others. And we'll talk about actionable advice, that you can apply today and break unhealthy patterns and grow your self-worth. So, in doing this episode, it touched on a lot of things. I thought about myself when I was younger. I had never planned on being in the field that I am in now. And I would just share a little bit of that with you. For those of you who know me and know me well, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But there are just some things that have been burning me up on the inside. And, and by the time I'm done sharing the things that I want to share, I think it would I hope that it helps at least, one person. For the people that have been a part of my blogs, or posting with me on the website, or be it through my texting community. And I just want to be able to get this out with everything that has been happening and the things that I've been seeing around. But understand that part of it is going to be encouragement, which that I always strive to do with everyone that I meet. And it might be part rant, but it's always to just be a little kick in the butt, for you to be prepared, for what's to come. So when I think about women that I serve, and I do think of what I do as service to others. And in all transparency, the women, that I am so passionate, and thankful that I get the opportunity to serve, and that I see myself in women, because I myself had a history, of unresolved childhood trauma, that resulted in sometimes not feeling enough. And by coincidence or by connection, created relationships that were sometimes chaotic or toxic. And the way that I was able to get through those things, and I'm talking about when I was in college, undergrad year, long time ago, the 90s. I remember I said the 90s to my son, and he looked at me like I was prehistoric and was talking like, electricity hadn't even been invented. That's a different story. But either way, I got through a lot of those things, by presenting well, by presenting and looking as though I had it all together, as functional or popular in a lot of ways. And I would say a lot of people assumed those things just by looking at me. It wasn't anything that I had to say. It was a lot of things that people assumed, also because I wasn't being vocal. And again, that is a hit that I would have to take, because as Black women, we don't always communicate with our mouths well. And that's another show for another day. But at the end of the day, there were all these things underneath, that were building up. And the one thing that I was not aware of or how unhealthy I was, because I was firing on all cylinders in all areas of my life. I was killing it. I was marking and checking all of the boxes. I was getting all of the praises from every single direction of my life. I had everyone in my circle and in my family at church, telling me how proud of me that they were, telling me how much they loved having me in their life or in their circle, or told me how pretty I was, some people that was followed by, for a dark-skinned girl, again, that's another show for another day. I had all of these things, that were coming into place. And I just kind of like, put to the side. And I kind of forgot where I came from. I forgot, part of the years, of kind of fantasy that I used to cope with feeling that part of not feeling enough. I forgot about that insatiable need to be liked at times, that manifested in us sometimes, and that, where we are over delivering or overperforming in certain areas, or not, or overperforming in areas just to be the best or have the need to be the best in whatever room you're in, in order to feel enough, because the way that was taken by people or told to me by people that is that you're ambitious, or that I was, or that I persevered, and I was diligent and responsible, right? So it was framed in that I was really great and in a healthy way, when really the source of it was not healthy. The source of it was a hole that could never be filled. And the way that was most clear was in the relationships. And again, I had no idea, how unhealthy that was, because I was under the impression that that's how it was supposed to be. And I know you may stop and think, well, she is, a psychiatrist, she's in the mental health field, how could she not know that? And so just a little background. When I started school, I had no idea that I would be in the field that I was in. I'm from Tuskegee, and when I was in, I would say from elementary school, I grew up in a time where I grew up in this era, where the country was looking for a lot of African American or Black mathematicians and engineers. So all of these big companies, I don't know how many of you remember this, all of these big companies like Ford, IBM, P&G, Procter & Gamble, who else? NASA, they were throwing all of this money into all of these top HBCUs to educate Black students to get into the field of mathematics and engineering. So when I was younger, I was a part of that. So me being from Tuskegee, ever since I was in the 9th grade, every summer, I was at Tuskegee University in an engineering and mathematics program. After freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, and then my senior year, I completed a program called Fast Track, ended up getting a scholarship to Tuskegee, and NASA Air Force actually sponsored my scholarship, got a full ride, and then graduated. And my actual bachelor's, long story short, is applied discrete mathematics, and that is a computer science and engineering-based mathematics. Far from what I'm doing right now, but that is, kind of what I'm saying. It is so far from what I'm doing right now. So when I say that I did not recognize those behaviors then, that is what I mean. So I had to grow into what I know now and into what I'm doing now. And it wasn't always a pleasant road. And easy to suffice it to say that if I can do it and be where I am now, and that's why I don't mind telling my story, is that you can as well. But anyway, I don't want to get long-winded with that, but that is why I did recognize those behaviors, and I did not recognize that it was unhealthy. So, even with the relationships I had, I was telling myself that, hey, relationships can be hard, things can be messy, people date who they date, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, great, whatever the case may be. And that sometimes, going through things in life was hard, and that things were a trial, and that things could be hectic, and things could be painful, and that having outward effects that were just getting bigger over time, and that things that I was using that helps people feel better and that helps self-medicate, for me, it was food. Or things that would distract me, were not as strong as they used to be. And the consequences of me not having enough or not having everything right was becoming more and more apparent. And the more apparent it became, the more and more shame, I felt. And I'm pretty sure some of you can understand that. And the more, as you feel shame, you start to feel that something is wrong, or you start to feel that you aren't, good enough. So, I'm just starting with my story to say that some of you may have already, either heard part of this story, in some form of another. Like I said, if you follow me on social media, or if you're with me on Clubhouse, at night, or in my texting platform where I, share a lot of things, then you understand that the things that I say, is or have been saying over the past week has been trying to encourage people to come to therapy. And I'm sharing my story so that you will understand or see how it has worked for me. And I'm hoping that it would be of some encouragement to you. And also that going back to healing yourself so that when you get involved in other people's lives, be it your relationships, and especially being that it is National Foster Care Month and you are deciding that you want to raise either your own child or bring another child into your life, that you yourself are happy, whole, and or healing yourself so that you can be of an asset or benefit to someone else. But, encouraging people to go back to therapy, and in doing this episode, typically a lot of people who are in mental health or the mental health field or therapists, they tell you that there are things that you should know before you go to help, before you go to therapy or to seek help. And I wanted to let people know that going back to therapy, because something that really, really, it can be of concern to me or makes me a little irritated is that, sometimes we feel powerless as clinicians, or with some of the other therapists that I have in my office, it makes us feel powerless on the other end, I would say, as a service provider. Or what's underneath all of that, I would say, is that knowing that the actual route that people take, or maybe I should say, when I see women, like I said, I'm talking to the women, who are going through a lot of pain, who need help, but they put their emotional and mental health on the back burner. And it may not be a complete, I will do it by myself, or I will be strong. But it's when I see some women kind of dip their toe, kind of get a little feel of the kind of mental health water, and then jump back out and say, well, I got a little bit of therapy, I feel a little bit better, so I'm going to try this out a little bit, just this tad bit of healing, and they get some kind of understanding that, hey, I just get a little tap of healing, and then I'm just going to go and try and persevere and do this on my own. Or they try to do it themselves. And it's just painful to watch, because I know both personally and professionally that the healing journey takes time and investment, investment time-wise, financially, it takes your mental strength and capacity, your energy, your focus, and more importantly, your prioritizing. If you do not prioritize your mental health, your emotional health, then things will not get better. You have to be the center of everything in your life. And in your life it's an overflow of what's inside of you. When people said the phrase or the cliche that the world doesn't revolve around you, well, actually it does. It really does. So the same energy or that same perspective, the same pain, the same hope, the same promise, that or what is coloring you or what is guiding your world is what is you're feeding everybody around you. So if things are unhealthy on the inside of you, and if things are not right on the inside of you, then that is going to be reflected in your friendships. It's going to be reflected in your family relationships, in your romantic partnerships. It's going to be reflected in what you eat or what you don't eat. It's going to be reflected in your bank account or your lack thereof. It's going to be reflected in how you sleep, if you sleep, when you sleep. how much you sleep, or even if you sleep at all. It's going to be reflected in what foods you choose to eat. And if you choose to keep that food down, if you understand what I'm saying, it's going to affect whether or not you choose to exercise or not to exercise, so many things. So, and the reasons why you do the things you do, the reasons why you choose not to do the things you do will manifest. It is because that's how you are going to show up in the world. And if you have all of this unresolved pain and trauma and depression and anxiety and anger and bitterness, and it's all balled up inside of you, you are not going to be able to have a happy and free life. And that's different from saying that you're not going to have any blessings in your life. That's saying that you aren't going to have the ability to see them, or to see them for what they actually are. So, it's going to prohibit your ability to see them and to have gratitude for them, and even at times to embrace them. It will significantly decrease or to see when, or when I see women, kind of skip over it and say, they'll figure things out later, or they got enough, just a little bit of therapy, and then they'll come back later. Then I just want to say, girl, even when it's true, even if that's true, why would you suffer needlessly for more time than is needed? So for me, being a service provider, I get to see it from both sides, right? I get to see it with, friends and family and pretty much everyone around me. That way, so when, so I also get to see it as a service provider for someone who helps people heal and get the life they want. And so the way I see it on my end and the back end is, as always, I take it two main ways. I see it both from a financial standpoint as well as, a time-wise. Sometimes people don't want to pay the cost for therapy, and I understand that. And with all things, people don't always want to talk about money. I pretty much don't have a problem talking about anything. And I will tell you one thing, because I always tell the clinicians that I have in my office that, one, do not be afraid to charge your worth. And I say that because with anything, especially when it comes to shopping Black, and I will use it as an example of shopping other things, people are willing to pay $300 for a pair of shoes, but if they're sold, or I won't even say sold by a Black person or a Black-owned shop, they will get upset or say it's too high if they're just $100, in another shop. In the Black person's shop, you still charge your worth regardless, okay? And never be ashamed to do that. And understand that therapists, trained clinicians have to charge their worth. And then understand that also you can go places and ask. Again, that is when I was talking about earlier about using your speech and using your words, that there are sliding scale fees for services that you can ask about. But again, you have to prioritize these things. And if you don't ask the question, then you won't know. But it's about prioritizing. You have to invest in your mental health, okay? So your emotional health and feeling that it should be cheaper, and at a certain cost, that's just not with it. So the reason, I feel that way is because when you go to a therapist, or a coach, a therapist has a certain amount of training. They go to school, they are regulated by a licensing board, they have spent countless hours and thousands of dollars, and they deserve their pay. You're coming to see me, I don't accept sliding scales because of me and my profession. You have to have insurance to see me. But I am talking about the therapists that you can see. And outside of that, just to give you free resources, you can go to mental health clinics where services may very well be free. So that is just to, again, that is me giving you resources. And then there is also being regulated by licensing board. So that is to ensure that you are getting the appropriate help you need, and not just some person who calls themselves a coach, which anyone can get on YouTube and have all kinds of things fall out of their mouths, and then they have this huge following and nobody is regulating them. I won't speak anymore on that, but those things are what they are. But when you go to a therapist, know that you're getting someone who has invested their time and their education and their energy, and they are licensed professionals, and they deserve to be paid for what that they are doing. And then understand that mental health professionals, that you're going to see someone who is literally holding your trauma for you and with you. You're going to someone who is staying present with you and with your deepest, darkest, most painful moments, and they're showing you that you are still lovable and worthy and valuable, and so I think that that is worth more, worth more than you realize. So I would just encourage you to just, first of all, don't be ashamed to the mental health therapists out there to charge your price. And then others don't have an issue with paying it. Because as women, we would pay for our nails, we'll pay for lashes, we'll pay for everything else because we consider those things a priority. And trust me, I've been there. I am not speaking from some elevated position at all. I have been there, and I had to decide what was more important, looking good or feeling good on the inside, so that would project on what I am, who I truly am authentically. And I decided that my mental health was more important than anything in this world. So with that being said, I also want to say that when it comes to this journey of healing that we all are on, because it is not just a place that you get to, it's not a destination, I would say. It is or a place that you arrive. Life is consistent, and it stays on a spectrum. The longer you live, the more things that you will encounter. And so even though you get through one thing, and you may travel from the point where you have a mental health diagnosis, or you might just need a little small tune-up, and that's okay. But having a good support system, there is nothing wrong with that. But please, by all means, prioritize that and be in a space to where when things happen around you, that you know that you have somewhere to go and that you have a place to heal from those things. So I would just advise you to prioritize, your self-help and your healing, in the time, and have an emotional investment in people, and make sure that, don't say that you don't have time to make change or make excuses, about the time, because you have the same 24 hours that everyone else has in their lives, and they still make things happen. Okay. So I remember, I bought, just to be transparent with you, I bought, this course about the stock exchange, on money and investing. And when I first saw it, it was maybe like a year or so ago. And I was like, man, I really want to, build a financial future for me and my children. I want to retire before about the time that I'm 50. I want to retire before I was 50. And I really liked the way that this person was teaching it. And I was like, that I was set up. I liked the way that it was set up. And it really had great reviews. I had researched it, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to get it right now. I'm going to wait until I had time, because right now I just really didn't have time to invest in reading and following the way that the book was written, because it really was going to be like taking another class. So So right now I said, I'm going to wait. And so I finally ended up getting the course, and I got it because by the time the course was like almost twice as much as it was when I first saw it. And it was last year, because the things that we want, that we grow in value, especially if they're good. So this person had raised, it had doubled the price. That is how good this book is. And I was like, man, I'm not trying to pay more down the road when I was very sure that this is what I wanted. And so I knew that my time, my perception of my time, was a lot more. To free my schedule was a lot different than it was before. When the first time I saw it, I was like, I go ahead if I buy the course. And then if I had done the course, it's always if I coulda, woulda, shoulda. But, I have learned to not do those things, because here I go again. I have bought so many things that had cost twice or three times as much as that book had, because I didn't make it a priority. Pretty much in a story. You know where I'm going with that. So again, you will trip up, but you have to learn to give yourself grace when things like that happens. And it happens to it happens to the best of us. So I would just advise all of you to, find, and let me say this, especially being a Southern girl growing up in the church, and whatever your higher power is, that you can go to church and therapy at the same time. Okay, so again, I just wanted to use my platform and use this to be of an encouragement to all of you, and especially to the women, so that you don't get into these spaces. I've been dealing with a lot of things over the past few weeks about women who are getting into these groups, or getting into these discussions and getting into these unhealthy scenarios because they are looking for, they're just looking for things to belong to. And I understand that. I understand wanting to have a sense of belonging. I understand the need for sisterhood, but it is not good to have unhealthy attachments. It is not good to not recognize abuse. And abuse comes in many different forms. Abuse is not always when someone hits you. Abuse comes with words. Abuse comes when people put you in situations that are harmful. Abuse comes when people use you for money or take advantage of you in any way whatsoever. Again, once you get on your own healing journey and you are in a space where you can actively see and hear and respond accordingly to things that are beneficial to you in a healthy way, and show up in spaces that are healthy for you instead of gravitating towards everything that is accepting of you, that is when you can truly celebrate yourself. And that is so important as women. And, we are making boss moves now. We have a Black woman on the Supreme Court. We have Black women in the White House, and running the country. And it is so imperative that we join them in bossing up in every area of our lives. And the way to do that is by getting clear and healthy up here first. So it's okay to be okay, and to get the help that you need to make that happen. So with that being said, I thank you all for being here with me on Up Klose and Kultural, Dr. Parasay, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Have a great evening.